radio as at 1974 or not, but I haven't seen it yet on the net. But getting back to the point here, why is it so important for us to handle issues that have to do with this particular gate or sphere of society, science and technology? What a better time to discuss something like that, because tell me one person that has not been affected by COVID-19. It's not necessarily that you're infected, but you're either in lockdown or your economy has been affected, even if no case yet in your own country, like we know of 1 or 2 countries in Africa that hasn't reported any case yet, they're still affected because they are within, the boundaries of South Africa that has quite a bit. I'm talking of Lesotho, and there might be others like that. So science and technology are talking of health. Everybody needs health. Like 3 John 2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you will prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." So health is very important. Tell me anybody who can do anything. We will not even be here talking if we were not, well. Because you say, well, he's indisposed. So it's very important. That's just medical science aspect. But technology, here we are now speaking to these beautiful viewers and listeners right now all over the world. We would not have been able to speak to people all over the world without technology. This is a platform of technology. So it's important for us then, especially in the body of believers in the kingdom of God, to know that if we're going to see what Revelation chapter 11 verse 15 says, that now the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever, then we need to understand this gate of science, knowing how things work, knowing how your environment operates, and then also technology, knowing how to do things and how to make things. So it's important for us to get that very clearly at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think you've already taken the wind out of my sail, because I was going to ask you to actually define science and technology, which you already have in a way. But how are the two related? Science and technology, how are they related?
Well, if you say science, like I said, is knowing how things work, knowing how your environment operates. It's like knowing yourself, knowing your environment, and knowing how to work things out the way they should. Then it's important for you as a person to now say, okay, science, knowing how things work, knowing how my environment operates, for what? To what purpose? To what end? That I may know how to do things and how to make things. That's technology. So that's how they are related. Because if, for example, I know that it's cold season, then I have to know how to keep myself warm. So I will know how to dress in winter. For those of you in the temperate regions, whether in the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, right now in the northern hemisphere, of course, we are coming out of winter, we're in spring and all that, So now for the people in the southern hemisphere, they're actually in fall, they're going to go into winter by June and all that. So, you know how to dress at that time, because you dress warm when it's winter, you dress light when it's summer, for example. And even if you are in the tropics, where you don't really experience winter and summer, there is still cold and heat to an extent. You have cool breeze sometimes, you have very hot season and all that. Sometimes you have dry season, you have, wet season, and you know what you should be, so you know how things work, and you know how to now do things, how to make things. So that's really breaking down to the barest minimum, because how to make things, how to do things would include, the technical know-how to make phones, to make these microphones, to make sound equipment and all that, and how to do things, how to also use these phones, how to use the microphones, how to use the sound equipment, public address systems, and all of the cameras. That's technical know-how, technology.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, there is this aspect of science and technology that has come out very strong, and it has to do with innovation. So I'd like to ask, where does innovation sit within the context of science and technology in this case?
Well, when it comes to innovations, because you are actually deciding to up the game. Okay, we know how to do things, we know how to make things, having understood our environment. But we want to get it to work better. So then you now look for a way to innovate. Sometimes the innovations and innovations end up being, such exponential innovations that bring exponential transformations. So there is like a quantum leap from one level to another level altogether. It is not a gradual move from one step to another. It is actually such a quantum leap that you are hitting a higher level than you've ever dreamt of. And at the end of the day, it is important for you then as a person to ensure that you are beginning to understand, innovations in this context sit to help us to do things better, to make things better on a daily basis. So, in fact, if you are an inventor, an innovator, you are one of the best helping to use technology to make science more meaningful. And now that we know things are like this, we'll do them better this way. So I bring innovation, I bring something better, better ways, in simple terminology, better ways of doing things, and probably much faster ways of doing things.
More effective ways of doing
That's
things.
right.
Okay, thank you very much. Doc, would you say, in your experience, from the time that you started the work of God, times you started hearing about the gates of society, would you say, in your understanding, God is part of science, or God is science and technology in a whole?
Well, maybe I answer it this way. Can you say that Steve Jobs, who has passed on, or the one who took over from him, or any of the people in Apple are part of what happens with Apple products like MacBooks, MacBook Pros, iPhones, iPads, and all that? Will you say, whether it is Bill Gates and all those other people in Microsoft are part of what happens with Windows-based systems, operating system?
Yeah, I would say yes.
So the maker of all things, who made all of these people, who might not even necessarily be the best of people, but at least we use them for an example because we're talking science and technology, and in the technology space, quite a number of people know them to be some of those that were leading, for a period, and maybe they still have something to do with that. How much more the one who made them? Shouldn't he be actually the one that is the author of all science and technology? Because knowing how things work, only knowing how things work, he made the things. So he's the best scientist. Now, he knows how they work best. The manufacturer knows how things work best. How to make things, I don't need to tell you, because he made them. So he knows how to make them. I mean, we know that we were all made by him. He is the one who said in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, whether you believe the Bible or not is not the issue. You have a manufacturer, and I believe in the Bible. The Bible says in Genesis 1:26, God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over all cattle, over all the earth, over every living thing that moves upon the face of the earth. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, verse 28, and said, be fruitful and multiply, and so on and so forth. Let me stop there. The fact is that God made man, and male and female created he them. So at the end of the day, even you watching me were made by God. So when it comes to making things and being innovative, I mean, there is nothing more innovative than the human body. I mean, with all the things that have been happening, somebody made a machine called the human body that keeps adapting to its environment and is able to conquer anything that comes new, including new viruses. There is the ability to actually manufacture antibodies to deal with antigens. I mean, come on, that's the best manufacturer. How can you be talking of technology and you don't? I mean, he knows things that are even yet to happen. He's already put things in place to handle them, not only for your body, but even for the rest of the environment. And, you know, there are things he had spoken about in the Bible that we're even yet to see, including, you know, Jeremiah about 2,500 to 3,000 years ago, knowing about flights, seeing people coming, you know, back to Israel on, you know, the doves of a wing with silver and shining and some with gold. And he's like, what is this man seeing? There are no doves with silver and all of that. But he saw aeroplanes long before. So he knew long before the Wright brothers.
Thank you very much. Now, there is an issue of redemptive gifts of continents that you've been speaking about. Now, can you just elaborate a little bit on some of the redemptive gifts of the continents in terms of science and technology that God has kind of put that burden on those continents to deal with?
All right. Let me do it this way. According to, again, the Bible, for those of you that read the Bible, you will see in Genesis chapter 10 that there were 3 sons of Noah. According to verse 32, from these were all the nations of the earth, you know, spread out from these 3 families. You know, the family of Japheth, Shem, and Ham, or Shem, Ham, and Japheth, whichever direction you look at it. So having said that, you know, you're able to actually trace back the current nations to 7 original nations, because there are 70 of them that are listed in that particular passage, 70. Now, so if you talk about redemptive gifts of continents, which means that's what God gave them primarily as their primary gift to help the rest of the continents, then you're talking of Africa and Asia for technology. In fact, a British anthropologist happened to have written to that effect, saying that when it comes to the human family, especially tracing back to the sons of Noah, then the Semitic people, or the Shemites, sons of Shem, descendants of Shem, are primarily the people who introduced the most prominent religions. You're talking of Jews and Arabs. And you see the Judeo-Christian morality that is talking about, you know, the Judaism and then Christianity on one hand, and then Islam on the other hand, because you're talking of the Shemites, or the Semitic people, the descendants of Shem. Primarily, that's their own. So values in science and technology should have come from the holy books, and it's not limited only to, you know, the Judeo-Christian morality, Islam, all that, but others, usually they would talk about morality. So science with a moral face, values to dictate how far you can go in using science and technology. Then if it came to the Japhetic people, they are multipliers, people who normally want to go to new territories. They want to always extend and expand their horizon. And the Japhetic people, the Japhethites, are the Western nations usually. So you'll be talking mainly of the Americas, particularly the North American continent, and to an extent South America, but much more North American continent, and the European continent, including the Indo-Eurasia, for example, where you have Russia and all of those. So they, in terms of science and technology, if you notice, quite a number of scientists and technologies have come from the Africans and on the Orientals in terms of the Asia aspect, the Orientals. And these ones, the Japhethites, have taken that, multiplied it, and they've ended up being the ones sometimes who might even take credit for some of the things that they did not make. Because quite a number of the things you use today, even in America, were made by the Hamitic people in America, because they were descendants of Ham, the Africans, and African Americans, and all of that. Now, but that's not the most important thing. I say primarily, meaning secondarily, others also can do the same. Then finally, if you're talking of the Hamitic people, I've already said, the man said that science and technology, particularly the technology aspect, is from the Hamitic people. So you see that, over and over again. That's why even NASA, you remember the woman, the black woman that actually calculated quite a few things. Quite a number of Nigerians, Ghanaians, and all that are also in NASA and some other places that we can't go into here. You have them all over the place. You have Asians there. So everyone at the end of the day, there are redemptive gifts for all of these continents. But I believe that, well, we're just giving out teasers, by the way, so let's not go in too deep into it.
Let me just follow up with another question. Because looking back into places like Egypt, where it extends over what we know as Egypt now, as Africa, have we lost it, or have we lost our redemptive gift? And how do we get back if we have lost that redemptive gift?
First of all, like you rightly said, Egypt is the land of the Nile, according to the book of Isaiah in Isaiah 19, from verse 19 to 25. Now, the land of the Nile then includes all the way from Rwanda, Burundi, Congo Democratic Republic, because Nyungwe, forest, where they say they have the source of the Nile. Then you have Jinja, Jinja, in Uganda, Lake Victoria. Then you have the Blue Nile from Ethiopia. So you're talking of the land of the Nile, which is more or less Africa at the end of the day. When you add Kush, which was all the way to what you call Oceanus Ethiopiacus, which is the Gulf of Guinea today. It used to be called Ethiopian, Ocean. And then Libya was all the way to Niger and all that. That was the lower Libya. And you see that in the book of Acts, the upper part of Libya be around Cyrene. So the lower part was all the way to West Africa today. So, the biblical land that was there is this African continent. But having said that, have we lost it? No. The scalpel for, operation, it might interest you. It came from the Buganda kingdom. I mean, it's recorded in history. So they already were doing open surgery, especially the aspect of cesarean section, long before any person from the West, the Caucasian, came. They discovered that, and it's recorded in history. Quite apart from that, writing came from here. So that's ability to do something, which is technology of writing, hieroglyphics, and some of the other things that we don't have the time to go into. Up till today, if you went to Mali, you will notice that in Timbuktu and some of the places where you had the Sankore University, which was the first international university ever in history, that you had all the continents more or less represented in its student population of about 25,000, when London was just 15,000, population for the whole city. You would see that they still have at least 700,000 manuscripts discovered. What is in those manuscripts? There's so much that we need to actually go and unearth and utilize. If we came to things like streetlights, do you know that it was in Benin Kingdom, Benin City today, in Nigeria, Edo State, which used to be Bendel State, or Midwest in Nigeria, according to the historical development. That's where you had streetlights long before the West ever had streetlights. I mean, you could go on with so many things. Have we lost it? We haven't lost it. What we have lost is history. And we need to get back to the history so that we now know we have this and we have what it takes. By the way, there are people still who are doing things. I mean, even with this COVID-19, there have been quite a few people that have come up with, all kinds of things that are helping them, both in terms of test kits that they have already been able to make in Nigeria, Tafawa Balewa University, some of the other places. They have also been able to do other things like, chambers for disinfection. When you enter a hospital, you are disinfected with your clothing before you enter. And when you're coming out, in case you contracted anything, you're disinfected before you get out. And that's very innovative. Not too many places have that. Then, of course, if it came to ventilators, quite a number of places, including Ghana, Nigeria, all that, they've come up with, more cost-effective and lower-cost, ventilators. I better stop there. There is so much, I mean. Even for BM, I remember they said there was one particular time where BM had to fly their best engineers to one African nation to go and see a young 17-year-old boy because he had come up with an engine, for BM that was better than both the 3 Series and 5 Series. And he just did it from, a basic, integrated circuit on a cardboard.
Okay. So we don't have much time, but I would like to ask this because we are in a season, a time where COVID-19 has taken over everything. Now, there is issue of 5G and what it causes. Can you just give us a summary in 3 minutes? What 5G is, where we are coming from, and where we are going, and if there are any health issues that are related to these things?
Well, I would not be able to do that in 3 minutes, so I was just going to skirt around that. Okay. The fact is, 5G is supposed to be, a particular system that will be like 100 times better than the 4G right now. And basically, people are talking about the speed, they're talking about the electromagnetic fields and the radiation that comes from there and all that. And the fact that, with that amount of radiation, you might end up with serious challenges and health issues because it will end up compromising your immune system. Is it true? Yes, even your cell phone, the cell phones we're using, I mean, there is radiation.
Yes.
And, there are a lot of things. These microphones we're using, because they are wireless, they also have their own. We could go on with all the others. There are so many things currently. Now, by the way, if you're talking 5G, you're talking of something between 20 to about, I think, 60, 70, gigabits per second, or, some people say megabits per second, whichever. The key point here is that at the end of the day, it's much higher. However, 6G has been researched since 2017. It's been in research and people are testing already, 6G, not 5G. Then apart from that, if you were going by the speed of internet, right now people say Taiwan has the, fastest internet. How come COVID-19 is not highest in, Taiwan? I'm just asking questions. How about the next place, that people talk about, which will be Sweden? How come COVID-19 is not highest in Europe, in Sweden? We could go on with all the others, Singapore and all those other places, America, China, obviously. That's why people say COVID-19, because China, America. But, some of the places that have rolled out 5G, South Korea, why is it not highest there? We need to ask ourselves the questions. Is it possible that we have the antidotes to all of these? Because we need to look for ways now of balancing our electromagnetic waves in the body. Did you know, and I'm asking you to, did you know that as a person, you are supposed to be someone that is solid light? Yes, you heard me right. You are solid light, because matter is solidified light. Why? Because in quantum physics, you realize that every matter is made up of quantum particles. Because when you go to the subatomic level, quantum particles make up atoms. Atoms make up molecules. Molecules now make up the matter. So at the end of the day, your body is actually light. And we all know light is electricity. So electrons and all of that. So right now, in your body, a lot of electrons are moving. And all you need to do is see the balance of the electromagnetic waves in your body. If you get that right, the rest is history. Whatever is coming from outside cannot overcome what is from inside. And I believe God made you the ability to conquer that. So what we need to do is rather, let's see what can we do. And you are somebody that should be able to comment on that before we even end this, because you are an expert at the Atomic Energy, Commission. Maybe viewers you didn't know. I mean, you should have introduced yourself. Maybe just briefly introduce yourself.
So, I work with the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission as a physicist and as an engineer also. Now, even as Doc is saying, the light that we see, the visible light, is also radiation. It has radiation in it. It has radiation effect. The light that you see, the electricity that comes to your house, everything that is around us, even as human beings, because when you move to a higher ground, you see human beings as particles. And particles emit radiations. You have frequency you are irradiating. So this frequency that you are actually giving off also gives a form of radiation that is also at a point in time when taken over a very long period, it can be destructive. So there are ways that you need to, as Pastor is saying, you need to balance the EM radiations within your system, which is very possible to do. Now, just a brief one before we go, because we have less than a minute to go. I would like you to give us your final word just for this session on science and technology in general, and the radiations, how to balance those radiations within our bodies. So science and technology in general, before we go.
While talking in terms of science and technology in general, everything God gave was for good. All good and perfect gifts come from above, the Father of lights, with whom there is no variableness, no shadow of turning. So his thoughts to us are thoughts of good and not of evil, to give us a future hope and an expected end. Science and technology is supposed to help us know how things work, how to make things to make life better. Any scientist, any technologies that does not make life better, that does not help people to live better lives, has missed the purpose for his knowing what God has given him to know as science, and then also ability to do things as a technologist. So what do we do concerning this? What we need is a bulletproof immune system. And there are ways we can help balance the electrons in our system by the things we eat, by the exercises that we engage in. In short, our lifestyle. There is a need for lifestyle changes. I know our time is up, so next time we can go deeper into this and we'll really be able to unpack this whole thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc. And we will see you next time. This has been Times and Seasons. Shalom.
Thank you for the privilege of your time and of your attention. God bless you.